She didn't leave quietly. She left with confidence, with certainty, with another man standing beside her like proof she'd made the right decision. She said I was holding her back, that she needed someone on her level, someone with ambition. Years later, she sat across from me in a glass-walled office, hands folded, eyes lowered, waiting for my signature to decide whether she kept her job. And the man she left me for, he wasn't there anymore. My name is Daniel Hart, and before I became the man who signed her paychecks, I was the man she was embarrassed to be married to. We met in our 20s when everything still felt possible and nothing was proven. She was sharp, charismatic, always talking about what's next. I was quieter, methodical, the kind of person who built things slowly, without applause. At first, she liked that about me. She said I made her feel safe, but safety stops being attractive to some people once they start confusing noise for progress. When we got married, we didn't have much. A small apartment, shared bills, long weeks. But we had alignment, or at least I thought we did. I worked in finance operations, not glamorous, not flashy, but I understood systems, risk, long-term growth. She worked in sales, client-facing, image-driven. Her world rewarded visibility. Mine rewarded results. That difference didn't matter until it did. The first cracks appeared when her income started fluctuating. Big months, then dry spells. She hated the uncertainty. "You're too comfortable," she told me once. "You don't push yourself." I didn't argue. I just kept building. Late nights, extra certifications, side projects I didn't talk about, not because I was hiding them, but because I didn't need validation while I was still laying foundations. She mistook silence for stagnation. Then came him. His name was Eric. He was loud in all the ways I wasn't. Expensive watch, confident grin, always talking about moves and momentum. He was one of her clients. At first, he was just a name that came up too often, then dinners, then late calls. When I asked questions, she said I was insecure. When I raised concerns, she said I was threatened. The night she told me she was leaving, she didn't cry. She stood in our living room, already emotionally gone. "I've outgrown this," she said. "I need someone who thinks bigger." She didn't say Eric's name. She didn't have to. She moved out within a week, filed for divorce before the month ended, posted photos with him shortly after, smiling, radiant, convinced she'd traded up. I watched all of it quietly, because while she was chasing the appearance of success, I was positioning myself inside something much larger. She thought I'd been left behind. In reality, I was just getting started. After she left, silence filled the apartment. Not the peaceful kind, the revealing kind. Every corner reminded me of what she'd decided wasn't enough. I didn't chase her, didn't argue, didn't beg for explanations she'd already rehearsed. I let her go believing she'd won. That illusion carried her for a while. Eric wasted no time upgrading her lifestyle. New restaurants, weekend trips, social media posts framed carefully to look effortless. Success by proxy. She leaned into it, changed her wardrobe, her tone, the way she talked about her future. She stopped using we and started saying, "I deserve." I watched from a distance, not because I was stuck, but because I was busy. The promotion I'd quietly positioned myself for came 6 months later, not announced loudly, just a shift in responsibility, authority, access. I moved into strategy, then acquisitions, then leadership. While she chased visibility, I gained leverage. Eric's world, I learned, was built on momentum, not structure, big promises, thin margins, deals that worked until they didn't. She didn't see it at first. She saw confidence and mistook it for stability. Meanwhile, I started signing off on budgets that could absorb companies like his without noticing. Years passed. Her posts grew less frequent, her tone less triumphant. Eric's name stopped appearing. I didn't need to ask what happened. People like him burn bright and then disappear when reality arrives. My career didn't burn, it compounded. By the time my name appeared on the executive floor directory, it didn't surprise me. What surprised me was when HR forwarded a resume for review. A familiar one, same name, same handwriting style I recognized instantly. She was applying to a subsidiary I oversaw. Different last name now, different confidence. But the experience section told the real story. Plateaus, lateral moves, unexplained gaps. She had no idea who would be reviewing her application. And I didn't rush to correct that, because timing matters. And sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones you let arrive on their own. I didn't recognize her resume at first glance, not because the name was unfamiliar, but because the confidence behind it was gone. Same education, same early experience, but the momentum she once bragged about had flattened into careful wording and defensive phrasing. Adaptable, team-oriented, seeking growth opportunities. That wasn't how she used to talk. I scrolled slowly, took my time. There was no rush. The role she'd applied for sat 2 levels beneath my authority. Not an entry position, but not one with power either. The kind of job you take when you need stability more than status. HR had flagged her as a potential cultural fit. They had no idea. I approved the interview, not because I needed closure, not because I wanted revenge, but because life had finally aligned the scales, and I wasn't going to look away. The day of the interview, I arrived early. Glass walls, clean lines, quiet confidence, the kind money builds when it no longer needs to prove itself. I sat at the head of the conference table, tablet in front of me, unreadable. She walked in 5 minutes later and stopped. Not dramatically, not visibly, just a half-second pause when her eyes met mine. Long enough for recognition to register, long enough for memory to flood back. She recovered quickly. She always did. "Daniel," she said, forcing a smile. "I didn't realize—" "No reason you would," I replied calmly. "Please, sit." She sat, hands folded, posture perfect, eyes alert. But the ease she once carried was gone. This wasn't the woman who told me I wasn't ambitious enough. This was someone calculating risk in real time. The interview proceeded like any other. I asked about her experience, her leadership style, her reasons for seeking change. She answered carefully, professionally. She never mentioned Eric. She never mentioned leaving me. She never mentioned the years she spent chasing something that didn't last. Halfway through, she asked the question she couldn't avoid. "May I ask how long you've been with the company?" I met her eyes. "Long enough to understand its future," I said. Her throat tightened slightly. "I didn't know you were—" "I know," I said evenly. Silence settled. Not awkward, waited. When the interview ended, she stood. "Thank you for your time," she said. I nodded. "HR will be in touch." She hesitated at the door. "I didn't expect this," she admitted quietly. "Neither did I said, but only one of us meant it." She didn't get the job offer right away. That alone told her everything. For someone who once moved through rooms assuming doors would open, silence was louder than rejection. HR waited 3 days before following up. By then, she already knew. They offered her the role, but with conditions. Lower starting title, probationary review period, limited advancement path until organizational alignment was confirmed. In other words, she'd be working under systems I'd built. She accepted, not because she wanted to, because she needed to. I didn't oversee her directly. That would have been too obvious, but everything she did flowed upward through layers that ultimately answered to me. That's how real power works. The first few weeks, she avoided me. Then came the inevitable question. One afternoon, she caught me in the corridor outside the executive offices. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I stopped. "Of course." She hesitated. "What happened?" "After I left." I looked at her, not coldly, not warmly, just honestly. I focused, I said, "And I stayed." She nodded slowly. "And Eric," I added. Her jaw tightened. "That didn't last," she admitted. "His company folded. Investors pulled out. Everything unraveled." She paused. I thought I was choosing security. I didn't respond. She laughed quietly. "Turns out I traded stability for spectacle." That was the moment. The exact second realization replaced justification. She'd left a man building quietly for someone burning fast. And by the time she understood the difference, the fire was already gone. Weeks passed. She did her job well. Not exceptionally. Not terribly. Just carefully. One evening, she sent me an email. Subject: "Thank you." Inside: "I never understood what you were building. I mistook silence for stagnation. I see now that I was wrong. I read it once, then archived it, because some truths don't require replies. They require acceptance." The first time I signed her paycheck, I didn't realize it, not consciously. It was buried in a digital approval queue, routine, unremarkable, one of dozens that passed across my desk every Friday afternoon. Name, employee ID, department code, approved, no hesitation, no pause, just process. That's the part people don't understand about power at that level. It isn't emotional. It isn't personal. It's procedural. I realized what I'd done later that evening, reviewing a summary report. There it was again. Her name. Under my authorization. She never mentioned it. Not at first. But she knew. Because humility arrives differently when it's earned instead of chosen. Weeks turned into months. She adjusted to the rhythm of the company the way people do when they no longer expect special treatment. Early arrivals, late nights, no shortcuts. She stopped trying to be seen and started trying to be useful. Ironically, that was when she did her best work. One afternoon, she asked for a meeting, not through assistance, not formally, just a message. 5 minutes, I agreed. She sat across from me again. Same glass walls, same table, but this time there was no pretense. "I want to say something," she said, "and I don't need you to respond." I nodded. "I left because I thought ambition meant acceleration," she continued. "I didn't realize discipline was the real multiplier." She inhaled slowly. "I thought you were standing still. You weren't." I was. I didn't interrupt. She met my eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness or reconciliation. I just needed you to know that I finally understand the cost of the choice I made." Silence settled between us. Then I stood. "Meeting's over," I said calmly. "Take care." She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She simply nodded. Because closure doesn't always come with relief. Sometimes it comes with clarity, and clarity once earned can't be undone. After that meeting, nothing dramatic happened. No confrontation, no confession, no attempt to rewind time. And that was the point. She stayed with the company for another year. Worked hard, kept her head down, did everything right. But growth, when it's delayed, doesn't always arrive just because effort returns. Opportunities passed her by, not out of malice, out of timing. Others were already positioned, already trusted, already aligned. She eventually resigned, quietly. No announcement, no farewell email, just another name removed from the system. I noticed because I reviewed the exit summary. That was the last time I saw her name in any official capacity. Months later, I heard through mutual contacts that she'd moved again. Smaller role, smaller company, more balance. she said. She told people she'd learned a lot. That part was true. As for me, I stayed, not out of loyalty, out of alignment. The company grew. So did my influence. I mentored people who reminded me of who I'd been: quiet, underestimated, patient. I taught them the lesson no one teaches early enough. Noise fades, structure remains. Years later, I ran into her once more. A chance encounter, neutral ground. She smiled. I smiled back. No tension, no longing, just recognition. "I'm glad things worked out for you," she said. "They did," I replied. She hesitated. I used to think leaving was courage, and now, I asked. Now I know courage would have been staying long enough to understand what I had. I nodded. "That realization usually arrives late," I said. "We parted without promises, without regret, because regret isn't loud. It's quiet, and it lives with the person who earned it." She left me for another man believing she was moving up. Years later, she worked under systems I built, paid by decisions I signed, not because I planned revenge, but because consistency compounds and impatience collects interest.